Okay, then let me just do a quick summary because I actually just felt it would be on to talk about it. With the Finance Bill 2021 was actually presented to the Senate, and there was a public hearing on the 14th of December, just to look at the critical issues for people to comment on it. Now, there are some notable changes that is being brought in, and we have some acts that are going to be amended. We have amendment to the Capital Gains Tax Act. We have amendment to the Companies Income Tax Act, amendment to Federal Inland Revenue Establishment Act, amendment to Personal Income Tax Act, Stamp Duties Act, Tertiary Education Trust Fund Act, Value-Added Tax Act, Insurance Act, Nigerian Police Trust Fund Establishment Act, National Agency for Science and Engineering Infrastructure Act, Finance Control and Management Act, Fiscal Responsibility Act, and other related matters. Now, these are the major highlights of the proposed amendments, and that is, we have about 12 laws that is going to be amended, and the 13th is the citation. Now, notable on the capital gains tax side is the fact that we used to have, in 1996, there was removal of capital gains tax on sale of shares and stocks, but there seemed to have been an introduction of that now to curb people just selling their investment. So now if you're disposing shares above 500 million, you now have 5% CGT on the disposal of those shares, unless you are reinvesting that the amount, the proceed, in shares of the same company or any other company. So once you have shares that you are planning to dispose, it's better you do your disposal before December 2021. So if this scales through, it means that 5% CGT against 0% CGT now comes on those shares. Now, where you dispose and you reinvest part of it, and it falls above the limit, then the amount that you've not reinvested will also come into purview of the 5%. So it will be like a pro rata basis. Then if you add disposal of government securities, there's no CGT on that. Then we have things around the police trust fund establishment. We all know that every company has to contribute 0.005% of net profits to the police trust fund. So we don't know what to do. We are just contributing. People were contributing, but now what we are getting is that whatever you contribute is now going to be administered by FIRS, and so we now know where to pay it to. So all the contributions that companies have been making since the act came to being, then we now know it has to be FIRS that will be managing that. Now, I spoke a bit about the digital tax before, and I said where you have a non-resident company that's into technology, your online social media platform. I think I saw recently that some of these social media will be adding VAT to anyone from Nigeria. So I really don't know how they want that to work, but there's digital tax now on income of non-resident that is into technology or uses Nigerian domain name. With respect to capital allowance on qualifying capital expenditure.
Thank you, Madam Titi.
Okay, thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you so much, Ma.
You can continue.
Good afternoon, professional colleagues. Sorry, it's part of the disruption we have seen based on what is the main thing now. And okay, let me just continue from where she has stopped. It's just basically we're looking at the issue of Finance Act 2021, Finance Bill, sorry, 2021, which the presidency have actually sent to the National Assembly. Just a week ago, the bill is before the National Assembly, and a whole lot of professionals, including ICANN, were represented there, and we had a whole robust, recommendations for our National Assembly members to look at, and just not just passing the bill the way the executive has submitted it to them, because some of us have always been voicing out our concern in this aspect. Okay, one of the issues there are a lot of issues. One of them, the issue of capital gain tax, which is looking at 5% to be applicable on disposal of shares in a Nigerian company worth about 500 million or more in any 12 consecutive months, except that where the proceeds is reinvested in the shares of any Nigerian company within the same year of assessment. It's good, but the concern there is that all of us all know how volatile this market is. So bringing them right now into the tax net, I personally don't feel is the best option at this point in time, because this will definitely unsettle the fragile market position of the Nigerian shares companies. Okay, then the second issue there, please go to the next slide, is on issue of lottery and game businesses, which is specifically taxable under CETA. The scope has been widened now. It has to include betting, game of chance, promotional competition, gambling, video poker, and the rest. That one is a welcome development. There's nothing much to be talked about it, because the truth is that if we're looking at widening the tax net and bringing a lot of things into the tax net, these are some of the things that are actually so much revenue going into. So it's a welcome development. Then we look about companies engaged in petroleum operations, including the midstream and the downstream operations, will not be eligible for exemptions on profit in respect of goods exported from Nigeria. The downstream companies were previously eligible under the old upstream and downstream classification. Then FRS has equally been given some level of power, to assess CIT on the turnover of a foreign digital company, which are involved in transmitting or receiving signals, sounds, messages, images, or data of any kind, including e-commerce, Apple stores, and online adverts. We have been talking about digital economy and the rest. So this, I'm happy that the government is waking up to this aspect, and not just waking up, but enlarging the space as far as the digital informations are concerned, so that we can be able to at least gain some level of tax revenue on those aspects. Okay, we'll go to the fifth point. The next slide. The next slide, sir. The next slide, please.
Don't worry, it's coming. It's always slow. Don't worry.
Then we'll talk about the issue of capital allowance claimable on an asset, which is now limited to the portion used for generating taxable profit. These are very, very interesting aspect of it. Assets partially used to generate taxable income will be eligible for pro rata capital allowance, except where the proportion of the non-taxable income does not exceed 20% of the total company income. Well, like I said, my only concern, concerning this issue of capital allowance is the fact that it's like a two-edged sword, because if you look at the aspect of especially the small companies and how they can be able to manage this issue, you'll find out that we will definitely have challenges in implementing this, where the taxpayer has both tax exempt and taxable income, and this will result in an apportionment, and the basis of such apportionment may not be agreeable both to the taxpayer and the tax authority, that's the tax administrator. So those are some of the. Then we'll talk about the reduction of minimum tax rate from 0.5 to 0.25%, where this one is just like how it has been done from 219 Act to 220 Act, and we are not given an option where, especially where we can now be able to look at applicable in accounting periods of 1st January 2019 and 31st December 2020, as may be chosen by the taxpayer. The taxpayer is given the privilege now to have an option of which of the years this minimum tax can be applied. The next slide. Okay. Now, withholding taxes on interest earned from a unit trust to be, sorry, go back, sir. One slide back. Seven. I want to lay emphasis on 7, please.
Sorry, the person that is drawing something on the screen should please be careful. Don't touch your screen if you have activated that device.
Okay, now we're talking about reduction of the reduction of minimum tax. You know, I've talked about that. Okay, the next issue there is on disputed tax assessment, which is to be on abeyance until determination why undisputed tax assessment is to be paid within 30 days after service of the notice of assessment on the company, except otherwise extended by FRS. You know that before now, it has been a controversy, even in where the tribunal, you know, ruled that once there's this assessment, they should make about payment even before you should talk about going on further appeal. But this has at least brought some succor, you know, to the taxpayer on that aspect, so that at least the aspect that is being disputed can be put aside while the other one is paid for. Then withholding tax on interest earned from unit trust to be treated as final tax. Only withholding on dividend is currently treated as final for tax for local companies. This is already what we know. Then we talk about the deployment of technology to automation, including assessment and information gathering by FRS to now include third-party technology. You know, previously we have only proprietary technology may be deployed. You know, a penalty of 50,000 to be applicable where a company fails to grant access to FRS, in addition to 25,000 for each of the when the failure continues. Then we're equally concerned now with the issue that the FRS now is to now become the primary agency, you know, for federal government responsible for administration of taxes, collection, accounting, and enforcement of taxes, levies due to federation and the rest. You know, this one is a typical case of the fact that a lot of government agencies have seen themselves taking over authority in terms of tax collection and tax assessment. One of them typically is EFCC. I was there about a month ago and I was challenging their level of authority in raising assessment. You find out that despite all that they can be able to do, at the end of the day, they cannot raise assessment. Why? Because the law do not permit them to raise assessment. So that's so more or less like this more and more and emphasis on knowing what the powers of the agency, which is the Federal Revenue Service, is. Then next one again is that any person or agency of the federal government that must refer matters requiring tax investigation, enforcement, and compliance to FRS is still in the same line. Where this is not happen, when a tax authority did not happen, I gave a scenario that time. Say, for instance, if a military officer along the way in the course of you know, going on a journey is able to apprehend some armed robbers, what is supposed to do is to hand the armed robbers to the police to investigate, you know, whatever they have to do, but not to pick the armed robbers to their barrack and begin to say no, that they are carrying out investigation. They conclude before they can hand it over to the authority that are concerned to do that. So that is why the penalty has been brought now by the bill, so that the relevant officer who violate the rule will not be made liable to a penalty of about 10 million or 5 years imprisonment. You know, so these are welcome development. Then we'll talk about deductible life assurance premium for personal income tax purposes to exclude a contract for deferred annuity. And the finance minister, subject to the approval of National Assembly, you know, this is very interesting, shall make regulations for imposition, administration, collection, remittances, including distribution of arrears of stamp duty and electronic money transfer, levies collected between 2015. Now, what they are trying to do is like, you know, trying to bring into full legal action what has actually been happening before now. We all know that Attorney General of the Federation, in collaboration with some government agency, have been doing this responsibility. Some of us have been arguing, do they really have this power? Do they have the authority to do what they are doing? We know that what the law talk about is issue of the Attorney General, having power to be able to look at the summary of the taxes in terms of stamp duty that have been collected. They have to confirm the summary. We don't know whether the confirmation of the summary now entails the issue of administration, collection, audit, and whatever. That is where this one is now putting it into proper perspective. That is now the Minister of Finance having gotten approval or power from the National Assembly to be able to carry out that. Then we probably have the tertiary education tax now to be payable within 30 days of service of assessment. It's currently 60 days. This is just to put it in line with what we have in CETA. The next issue there is the non-resident making taxable supplies to recipients in Nigeria to have the primary obligation to charge, collect, remit VAT to FRS. The VAT return obligation of Nigerian resident now limited to where the non-resident or its appointment fails to collect VAT. This is very interesting. These are one of the issues that even came up during one of the interview I had with channels. And channels were asking, what are we talking about? We're still talking about this fact that VAT is still a contestable matter in the court. And then we look at the whole bill entirely, and the government was actually silent on the issue of who to collect or who not to collect, knowing fully well that it's already behind the court. The matter is already before the court. But you can see that indirectly, they are still mentioning issue about VAT here, going to FRS. So, well, these are some of these things I believe that government is testing waters in this aspect. Then the exemption from VAT registration and compliance obligation applicable to small companies with annual turnover less than 25 million to exclude companies engaged in upstream petroleum operation regardless of turnover. We talk about this is one of the things that 2019 Finance Act brought about, issue of exempting the small companies that have 25 million and below turnover from both filing and paying VAT. But we know what is obtainable right now, even in the tax offices, that some of our tax administrations still try to impose fine on these small businesses for not filing. But however, the bill has sought a way of laying more emphasis again on it, and now bringing these companies in the upstream petroleum operation that regardless of their turnover, because they're in a very special sector, that they are not to enjoy this benefit. Okay. Then we talk about the appointment of FRS to assess, collect, and enforce the payment of Nigerian Police Trust Fund. We are all aware that the Police Trust Fund issue, and now they have made it official that FRS is not one. So we will not be surprised as practitioners that with effect from next accounting year, we will begin to see where these things are being enforced and collected by FRS. Amendment of the National Agency for Science and Engineering Infrastructure Act to remove the requirement for commercial companies to pay a levy of 0.25% of the turnover annually to the fund. Primary source of the fund to be limited to 1% of the federation account. This one is still a little bit of controversy, but it's a welcome idea. Then the amendment of the Fiscal Responsibility Act to enable government to borrow for critical reforms of significant national impact. Currently, the government at all tiers are only empowered to borrow for capital expenditure and human development. This thing just sounds very funny. I don't know what government is trying to achieve by trying to slotting this very funny sentence here, critical reforms of significant national impact. One thing again is implementation. Anything now can become a critical reform as far as the government is concerned. I believe professionally they would have limited it to what it is, because these are the things that can help us to manage the impact of what we are looking at. So rather, in conclusion, the whole issue about the bill subject to the amendment from professionals, because they had a very robust session at the Senate the last about a week to 2 weeks ago, and each of the organizations were highly represented, bring about robust discussion on this issue. So if based on those submissions that the Senate can look at it, have a second look at it and implement those amendments, it will certainly bring about a deepened tax culture and encourage good governance in Nigeria, and will not equally assist in clarification of our tax laws. Ladies and gentlemen, professional colleagues, this is how far I can go for now. We can take questions.
Thank you, Dr. Nwabuzo. You nearly wanted my breath to get out of my mouth.
I'm
when
so sorry, sir.
I wasn't able to get you. And I want to say thank you to Madam Titi for also be ready, because me, I no go school. So how can I discuss 2021 finance bill when I no go school? Okay, so we thank God that we're able to have you back. I've told you not to travel to your village this time. You wouldn't listen. You think MTN is everywhere? I beg you. Okay.
Sure they're everywhere.
Good evening once again, my distinguished members of our institute. You have listened to our panelists, and the moderator has also been able to give us some insight into what we call e-Naira. Okay, we want to ask you to check around and tell us what you have in mind for these panelists, and from there we'll take it further. Naturally, if it were to be in our ordinary course of training, we will have been rounding up within the next 1 minute. But because this is a special one, we have been able to give you a little about everything we need to discuss. We need you to unmute yourself, ask your question directly. For those of us that are like me, that are very shy, you can drop your question in the chat box. The panelists, they have access to the chat box. And as far as I'm concerned, I'll be very happy if we are all fine with everything. At least it will enable us to go on time. But I feel that we can ask one question or the other. Please, unmute yourself, give us your details, and talk to us. Otherwise, raise your hands if you have any question. Okay, I see you with your hand. Can you just unmute yourself and talk to us?
Kenny Shoyemi.
Okay, Maga Shoyemi, please.
All right.
Talk to us, sir.
Good afternoon, good evening, and of course, good morning.
Sir.
Some of us may be joining from other continents. I'm actually from Ijebu-Ode and District Society, but I actually saw the technical section bulletin, and I actually requested that I join to benefits like this. My observations are simple. With respect to this finance bill, the whole idea of thing required for opening of bank accounts and existing bank accounts to update and things like that. The presidency has said that that particular bill has no such insertion. But however, I know fully well that as per Finance Bill 2019, Section 10, I'm not too sure now, Section 10, subsection 1 or 2 now, has some provisions of the Finance Act 2019 as a provision like that. So, what is the intake, and what exactly is this issue of thing related to bank account opening, and existing bank accounts? That's my comment question. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Kenny. Nwabuzo, do you want to say something about that?
Regarding the issue of TIN, like you rightly said, In the 2019 Act has actually brought about the issue of tin generation for companies. And you know that presently the CAC have an interface with Federal Land Revenue Service that once a company is incorporated, they generate tin for them automatically. So these are part of the effort, to bring enlarge the tax net, bring more people into the tax net. But the basic thing is that 2020 bill did not lay emphasis on this issue of tin, especially as it regards to individuals. But that of 2019 Act specifically mentioned it, that every company must have a tin. It's now a prerequisite issue that every company operating in Nigeria must have a tin.
Can I just
Thank
add
you.
to that?
Titi.
Can I just add to that?
Go ahead, Titi.
I think we should understand that it's not even a matter of Finance Act alone now. When you get to any state, especially Lagos State, and you want to collect your tax clearance, they will ask you to go and register. Once you register, what you get is your payer ID. We may not call it TIN, but I know there's a unique TIN, which is UTIN, which is between all the states through JTB. So what is happening currently is if you're going to open a business, let's even say you're not a limited liability company, but you're opening a business, one of the requirements will be your taxpayer ID. So as an individual, if you don't say you say you're not a corporate entity, but as an individual that want to set up a business, open a business account, they will still ask for you as a requirement. And that's what is happening. Now, if you want to collect your tax clearance certificate for anything you want to do, you will still have to get this thing. So the only area is that the Finance Act, Finance Bill as of today, did not mention that. It's been said in 2019, like Dr. Wambuzo said. But one thing I know is if you want to do any transaction today, one of the requirements that the tax authority will be asking you, or your bank or anywhere, they will ask you for your payer ID. I can give us a scenario. I had someone who is resident in Lagos, files all our tax returns in Lagos, pay taxes in Lagos, did VAT in Lagos, and another state is writing her, trying to put a garnishee order on her account in another state. So we have to provide evidence of her tax ID, evidence that she has paid taxes, evidence that she's resident in Lagos. So whether we like it or not, even if the Finance Act is not saying it, in practice, it is happening. Thank you.
Abbas Fayomi, can you talk to us? Abbas Fayomi.
Yeah, good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon,
sir. Thank you for this technical session, Dr. Wambuzo. Please, I need a clarification on police trust fund, what the rate will be, and at when is it likely to start? The implementation will start rather. Then, is it enforceable on all companies, irrespective of whether the turnover is more than 25 million or not? Thank you.
Dr. Wambuzo, do you want to attend to that?
Yeah, issue of police. Well, like I said, the Police Act was actually passed last year, but the fact is that it was not here or there until this bill is now seeking to bring it to the door of FRS to become the main assessor and more or less receiving it on behalf of the police. So basically, it has to do with all companies. And another point again to note is that under the, just a minute, under the same, I want to bring up something, just a minute.
Why Dr. Wambuzo is doing that, please, if you have any question, you could raise your hand or please drop your question in chat box so that we can have a good direction to where we are going.
Okay, so like I was saying, it's about 0.005% on the net profit.
Nobody came out from that room.
Operating in Nigeria, all companies now. It's not a matter of whether it's across all companies. Once you are operating in Nigeria, FRS have been empowered to collect the Nigerian Police Trust Fund levy. The act was enacted, like I said, it was enacted in 2019, but it was a little bit silent because of the technicalities in terms of implementation. So the bill now is seeking for the fact that FRS have been appointed, to ensure that the assessment is done, the collection and the enforcement of the payment cannot be carried out by FRS. And like I said, it's about 0.005% of net profit of all companies operating in Nigeria.
Just to add to that, quite a number of companies may have not made provision for that when it came into force last year. But for those who have made provisions, they can now remit. And one of the questions that came up then, and I know the issue about police trust funds started in 2019 when they were still considering before they now made it to be an act that is enforced on everybody. So for those who have not made the provision, that means you have to now look at the effective date of the act and then start making that, make that payment, because it has to be done on an annual basis. For those who have made provision, then they can now start remitting to FIRS. Now, the working modalities, I expect that by the time the bill is finally signed into law and this provision is still there, then it means that FIRS needs to now come out and give further guidance on how this will be operated. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Ma. Normally things of this nature, FIRS will come out with a circular to that effect. So we expect an information circular to that effect soon.
Okay, thank you, panelists. I am trying to see if we have any question.
There was a question on the chat box.
Okay, can you read it out, Alaji? Do you have it?
This from Mr. Adeyinka Akim. He said, for lottery and gaming business, would losses sustained in the course of betting be considered incorporating tax due? Are we talking of withholding tax on winnings payable or debtors or commission payable to agents? That's the question.
Okay. On issue of, normally every business, there's always either you're making profit or you're making loss. And the cost of lottery and gaming is not different. The policy that these losses have been incurred. Definitely, there's no anyhow you'll be forced to pay on a loss that is sustained. Taxes are paid based on profit, not on losses. And the withholding tax is actually to be paid by the agent, because they are the one to make the payment. So the law expects them to become a tax agent of making the deduction as source and remitted, which will become final and conclusive.
Just to add to what Dr. Wambuza said, I think if I just do a bit of my brain racking when I did a 1 year stop in lottery business, a lottery business is not different from any other business anyway. But what has been happening is that they're probably outside the radar of the tax authorities. And that is why this amendment is coming up, so that they can all be. Quite a lot of people get winnings, and those winnings are just taken tax free. Even on the income tax side, they may not have reported it. So I'm seeing that this is beyond just the lottery company. It's now going to be an eye-opener for the state tax authorities to now start watching out for anyone that has been announced to have been winning at the lottery. Where some of the lotteries that is being exposed and it's being said. So there is a side of the withholding tax with the company that if you're paying your agent, which you have to withhold. And then the question we'll be asking ourselves is, what happens to the winnings? Will the winnings now be subject to withholding tax when they are being paid? And then we expect the lottery company to deduct withholding tax and remit to the state where those individuals are resident. These are also things that we see may be an offshoot of this, bringing the lottery business into the tax net. But whether you are making a loss or a profit, the normal company's income tax law will apply to any company to this lottery or betting business. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. This is 12 minutes after 5. If we do not have any further question, I think we can call it a day. Well, if we have questions, we still have about 10 minutes to round up. But if there's none, there's nothing we can do. Should you have any other concern that you want us to look into, please ask now. Okay, Abbas, are you still raising your hand?
Yes,
Talk
I
to
do.
us.
My first chairman, sir. Well done, sir. I need a further clarification because I think Finance Act or Finance Bill is becoming an annual thing. And I want to ask that, does it mean the previous act that was released in 2020 or the previous ones before this Finance Bill 2021 is no longer, applicable, or is it that we are going to make reference to the previous ones in addition to the new one that is coming out? That's my question, sir.
Okay, this is a nice question. Let me say something. Because I was a witness to when we started having the finance miscellaneous decree up until 1999, I think, or so, that is stopped. Now, the implication of annual finance bill means that when a new finance bill comes out, it might amend sections of the previous finance bill or sections of the law. Now, so when you're referring to any section, you have to check what are the amendments. For instance, insurance section 16, I think, is now fully amended and everything repealed. You know, when you look at Finance Bill 2021, it will tell you section so and so repealed and replaced with this section. So what it means is that only the sections that is say fully repealed, that means anything you have in 2019, 2020 that relates to that section is no more in existence. It is now 2021. So it's so much work for anybody that is into tax, or you sit on the tax desk. You must know what has changed. Now, you also need to be careful when you are referring to amendments. The Finance Bill 2021 has amended some aspects of 2019 and 2020. So you have to know the recent and the most recent amendment to any section that you are quoting. So that's the exercise you now have to do to make sure that as the finance bills are coming out and it's becoming an act, you know which section has changed, which one has been retained, which one has been substituted, which one has been deleted. So these are words that are being used. You will say something has substituted this. They will tell you that a section has been repealed. I know some sections there have been repealed. The one on the non-resident company was fully written again. So you need to know what has happened. So some sections of Finance Act 2019 and 2020 is still applicable. 2021 has amended some and brought in new things. So that's what usually happens. So we just need to be
in addition to what my senior sister have said, Dr. Titi, you see, let me give you a scenario. In computing the personal income tax now, you find out that you are going to be faced, if you are, for example, doing personal income tax for 2018, 2019, 2020, you're going to be faced with 3 different approach to it. Because if you're going to do 2018, that means you're going to use the template or whatever the law said as a 2011, 2011 Act of Peter. But in 2019, you're going to use a different template because of what the Finance Act has brought to bear. And 2020, again, there's a slight change again. You're going to use based on 2020 Finance Act. So it's something that is ongoing and we need to get used to it so that we can be able to apply it as at when due. Just like what Madam Titi said.
And just to add to this, now, because we have some companies in special zones, free zone, companies that are exempted. Now, you're going to have issues with their capital allowance computation because of the restrictions. So you just need to know what amendment has come in, what has been amended, and the impact on the accounts of the company. We have minimum tax regime that says you use 2 years, 1920 or 2021. You also have to look at which one are you using. So it's just going to give you a lot of being current in terms of the amendments to the law.
Okay, thank you, Madam Titi. The the question is a very apt one, and thank God the question is coming forth. Like Dr. Wabuzo said the other time, let us be careful. For those of us that were there when I started this prologue, I made mention of the fact that this profession in which we find ourselves by design is a very delicate one. And I make mention of issue of biology. Even if you learn tailoring, once you know how to cut clothes, if any other design comes, you will be able to do it, but not in accounting. Once you sleep 1 minute later than how others slept, you are seriously on your own. And my advice is that as these laws are coming out, as these pronouncements are being made, kindly pause whatever you are doing to understand that law right there. Because if you postpone it, you are postponing evil days. Not only evil days, second day that you are postponing to, another thing will come out, and they will be too much for you to bear at that time. And that's why one of the jokes that is being passed across social media says, all this law they are bringing out is only teachers, professionals that will suffer it, because professionals need to action it, teachers need to teach it, even when they were not taught of that thing when they were also in school. So this is how we need to be very serious about it. And the single ladies and gentlemen.
Sorry, Prof. I saw a question. I just want to address it.
Okay, go
and
ahead.
Somebody is talking about net profits that can add backs from audits affect this. Now, when we are talking about net, we are talking about your earning before interest and tax. That's your net profit line, not the gross profit line. Now, audit adjustment is separate from what we are talking about. You have your financials, you have your earning before interest and tax. At that point, that's where you apply your 0.005%. If it's a loss, there's nothing to pay when you talk about the police. But when you now start talking about add back from audit, if you mean tax audit, then there's a separate thing. What that means is that there can be, in fact, I don't want to go into that, but with the way things are going now in the terrain of international tax transfer pricing, there can be some adjustment that can affect your liability. But on a straight of it, net profit is talking about your earning before interest and tax, which is what comes is your PBT. Thank you.
Dr. Falcon.
Yes, sir.
Specifically, what is your answer to that question?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Net profit is your earning before interest and tax.
Okay, thank you so much. Do we have any other question that we want to ask? While we are doing that, Dr. Nwabuzo.
There seems to be another question, sir.
Okay, please read it and answer it.
There is a question on issue of selling a property and using it to invest another property. You see, the issue here on 2020 finance bill was very specific on issue of shares. There's companies that are involved in shares in Nigeria, not on issue of property. So let us have it at the back of our mind, not to mix things up. It's specifically on issue of capital gains on Nigerian share market. That is what 2021 bill is all about. I just want to lay emphasis because of the question that somebody is asking on issue of property.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, sorry, Prof. I'm seeing something here and I need to clear it. There's a comment that says government should sit and amend all major areas at once and may bring out Finance Act every 3 or 5 years. If it becomes yearly affair, it may get. Let me address that. In the UK, Finance Act is annual, every April. So what we are doing in Nigeria is not different from what happens elsewhere. Yeah. What this means is that our students of taxation need to be up and doing. Tax professionals need to be up and doing. Accountants that are sitting in offices need to be up and doing. You should check before they decide or advise their management. That's what it means. What we are doing is not different. That's world class. It happens in every country. Thank you.
Okay, don't thank me, Madam Titi Falcon, because I'm about to throw problem out now. Distinguish Your Excellency, Dr. Nwabuzo and Dr. Falcon. How would you help me explain to this honorable member of my district and those that are joining us from other districts on the concept of minimum tax? Please take your time. I'm not in a hurry. Let Nwabuzo go first. Nwabuzo, I know in your village there is an hotel there and you are in an hotel. Please tell them not to open that door until you are told to do so. Take us through what has happened to minimum tax. Don't forget our discussion on the legality of minimum tax. Auntie Titi, you will please join when it's done.
Okay, we are talking about issue of minimum tax, you know, like, okay, let me start from my own personal opinion. My opinion as a professional is that if you ask me, I don't even believe in minimum tax as a person. I've always advocated that minimum tax is more or less capital erosion, capital reduction, because I believe that taxes are supposed to be paid from profit, nothing more than that. And if I'm not making profit, what is the issue about issue of minimum tax? That means I'm going to pay from my capital, from my business cash flow. So, but coming back to issue of what the Finance Act has brought to bear, we know that in 2019, there is issue of 0.05% as that of minimum tax for the companies. And in 2020, because of COVID, it was equally reduced. After some of us were shouting at Senate, it was reduced to 0.025, you know, and that is just what it is as far as minimum tax is concerned. The same thing to go on individuals, where you have before 2019, where you have issue of 20,000 naira exempted as salary, and in 2020 you have 30,000 naira. You know, that is just what it is. Like we said, these things are as it is in the act. That is how it has to be implemented. You cannot pick information of Act of 2019 to begin to express that of 2022. They are two different things. Or using the Act of 2019 to start talking about 2017 or 2018. All these things are laws, and according to our learned friends, they say laws are not implemented in retrospect. So that is it.
Dr. Falcon.
Okay. Okay. My own, I think I'm not differing from Dr. Wabuzo. As far as I'm concerned, minimum tax is more of tax on capital. I've not made profits. I've made losses. You are eroding my shareholders further by telling me to pay minimum tax. That's the way I see it. But be as it may, the government have tried to say, okay, let's alleviate the pain and reduce the base and base it on turnover. The fact that I have turnover does not mean I make profits. What is it that I reserve in my business is the profit, not the turnover. Because the turnover would be, you take out my expenses, my cost, everything to arrive at what I have as my bottom line. So the minimum tax concept, where there are a lot of advocates that it should be removed, but I know government will not accept that because it's going to erode their revenue. Now, with what has happened in recent times, it means that people need to look at it. I have a case, a practical case, where we applied to adopt the 0.25% that we had before this amendment. And the tax authorities say, no, you don't qualify. And I ask a question, on what basis don't the company qualify? As long as that basis year, you know, we have to also look at the year in question. Let's not forget that if we are talking about Finance Act 2020, the effective year for Finance Act 2020 is year 2021. So if it talks about preceding year, it's saying that anything you do in 2020, you will enjoy it in 2021 fiscal year. So we need to also look at that concept of preceding year, actual year basis as people. So the issue of minimum tax, you have to look at the accounting year in question. So you don't go and start applying for the 0.25% in a year that doesn't qualify. So these are things that people need to look at. And now when it comes to individuals, what we're saying is, as an individual, you're earning mega income and you're still paying 0.5% of your income as minimum tax. So the question is, minimum tax is not based on your gross, not on the net that you get. So there are issues around minimum tax, no doubt. But what the government is trying to do is to be sure that everybody pays tax one way or the other. And I guess that with what we have achieved so far, as time goes on, with what we have achieved so far, I believe that as time goes on, we might get to what we are looking at to see minimum tax extinguished for the sake of businesses so that they can grow.
Abiodun, this is not fair on all of us. What is all this now?
Thanks.
Sorry. Thank you. Okay. I don't know whether Titi or Nwabuzo, with the current advocacy on e-Naira, what are the government plans to ensure that those at the bottom of the pyramid are fully aware and educated accordingly?
Let me take that and then. Oh God.
I think we have to remove Abiodun completely now.
Let me take that. Because why is this was there was a recent luncheon, business luncheon that CITN had, and this question came up. There's a talk about inclusiveness. And I asked the people in the rural areas, the people that are being faced with insecurity, there's no network, people that are being displaced, how are they going to work on this? The understanding I have is that the e-Naira issue is in phases. There's a phase that is going on now for the bank. There's going to be a phase for the unbanked, and that will be through the POS agents and through those other, once you can get a POS agent, then they can route it through that agent. But I'm saying the possibility of fraud, is there any way to address this? I guess there's still a lot of questions for CBN to look into. And as at the moment, the tax authorities are not yet on the platform. So that's going to be another issue. So for the unbanked, they are in the plan, but they are not on the tier 1 or tier 2. They are probably going to be considered later. Thank you.
Okay, Nwabuzo. Unmute yourself.
Yeah, there is nothing much to add. You know, we have a very interesting government, and the issue of you putting your neck out as to issue of what they can do or what they cannot do is something that all of us will just fold our hands and begin to watch. You can see what's happening to the e-Naira stuff, that even before it was implemented, we're already having a caveat emptor. We're already having a warning in terms of what hackers have been able to do with it. And some people, even among the learned professionals, we're already losing money by virtue of going to a wrong website to be able to get themselves enrolled and all that. So issue of enlightenment and knowledge campaign is something that I will not just put on the corridor of the government alone. I will say we professionals too, we have to do our bit to bring about advocacy and information to every nook and corner. Because if we leave it to the government alone, I can bet you that it will just remain the way it is. That's my own opinion.
Thank you so much, my panelists. If you look at your time now, is exactly 5:30. Our distinguished participants, we want to, on behalf of the district, say thank you for how far you can listen to us. I quickly need to bring back on board the chairman of our Muda district, Elder Gbenga Omidiji, to talk to us and give us some further information. Of course, he's the chairman, so spirit will lead him on what's next to do. Thank you all. Thank you, my panelists.
Okay, thank you very much, Vice Chairman, Professor Godwin Oyedokun. Thank you, Dr. Emeke, and thank you, Dr. Titi for working. It's been a pleasure of listening to you for the past 1.5 hours, and I'm sure, just like we've been known for, Ilupeju Bagrandi Society has scored another high point today. I'm sure that everyone that have been attentive, that have attended this month's technical session will have one good word or the other to say. So I want to thank you for taking your time to put us through all this information. And I want to thank our members and our friends and professional colleagues from other districts who have been patient enough to see us, to stay with us till the end of the technical session for this month, which signifies the close of official activities for the district for the year. Once again, I want to wish every one of us a Merry Christmas and wish us a prosperous 2022. On that note, I don't know if I want to take donation before we close, but I'm not going to emphasize it. But again, please don't come back as a member of the district. Don't come back and say that my name is missing in the attendance. Go to the chat room and register now. Just type your name and your membership number. And if you are a visiting professional colleague, please put down your name, your membership number, your email address, and your telephone number, so that those are the 4 information we need, including your district Please, can we help us mute those who are unmuting themselves, so that at least we can register your name and put you across for the necessary of available credit hour. On this note, I would like to call on any member to raise up his hand to move for the adjournment of this beautiful meeting and technical session. Abbas Fayomi, you have the floor. Abbas Fayomi.
Okay, I, Abbas Fayomi, with membership number 753211, hereby move the motion for the adjournment of the meeting to January 2022. Thank you.
My chairman, I'm seeing Abolore, Olumide. I don't know why they are raising their hands.
No, I think they want to second the motion. But before then, let me quickly, for our newest members, that is those who are just inducted in November and who have officially joined the district. We are presently in our 3rd platform. You will subsequently be added to the mainstream platform. That will be the platform 2 of the district. So when you see that migration, don't be perturbed. There's no cause for alarm. There's no cause for anxiety. You are just being fully integrated into the mainstream platform of the district. Once again, please, for members of the district, our institute's due and annual due for the district is essential. Our participation in all district activity is essential. Our membership and active participation in the district committees is essential, and we should start by now to prepare to attend the forthcoming Western Zonal conference that is coming up, or that is starting on February 14th in Ijebu-Ode. Our meeting for the month of January, can someone give me a date then? January is coming on the 38th of January. 38th of January, and it is going to be a physical meeting at Ilupeju Recreation Club. We shall be celebrating the 1-year anniversary of Ilupeju Background Society. We shall be having the birthday celebration of all our members whose birthday fell on December and January. We shall be doing a lot of things on that day. So please, let's all plan ahead to be a part of that meeting. So on that note, can I have someone to second the motion for adjournment? And I want to call on Comrade Abolore to please second that motion.
I hereby second the motion moved by Abbas Fayomi. I am Comrade Rahim Abolore.
Thank you very much. In that wise, will Olumide S lead us in the closing prayer? Since you are not able to move or to second, can you lead us in the closing prayer? Olumide S.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Awusu Samuel Olumide, and I second the motion for the adjournment of the meeting to January 20th. Thank you.
Closing prayer.
Thank you very much.
Prayer.
Somebody has seconded. We're asking you to give us the
closing prayer.
Okay. Yes, please.
All right. Thank you so much. Sorry, I missed that up. Okay. Our Father, we thank you for today. We thank you for the grace to have been able to gather once again, even for the last meeting for the year 2021. We say be thou glorified in the name of Jesus. Thank you for the impactful session. Thank you for the wonderful expos that you have blessed us with. Thank you, O Lord, for how far we have moved as a model district that is even faster than any other district so far. Oh Lord, you say, your name be glorified in the name of Jesus. Daddy, Lord, as we go forth into even into the new year, you say your grace, oh Lord, will be sufficient for us in the name of Jesus. You, oh Lord, will go with us and be our strength, and you make us to have to beat record of something that have never been made, even in ICANN as an institute in the coming year and thereafter in the name of Jesus.
Amen.
Thank you, Father, Lord, for answering prayers. At the end of it all, let us have focus on fire. For in Jesus' mighty name we are praying.
Amen.
Thank you very much, everybody. A reminder that in continuation of our market days, I think we'll be having a market day on Tuesday and Thursday, or the date that has been advertised for all our members to prepare to advertise their goods and services so that other members can patronize them. The platform, all the platform will be open from 12 noon to 6 p.m. on those days for our members to publicize and advertise their goods and services so that our members can patronize them. Good night, everybody, and have a lovely week ahead. Merry Christmas and a happy and prosperous New Year.
Amen. Merry Christmas.
Thank you, Chairman.
Bye.
Merry Christmas.
Bye.
Oh, thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone. Nice presentation.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry Christmas. I'm sorry I came in late. I was unable to connect on time. I just arrived for that court, so I'm sorry you are coming late. But thank you. It was nice. God bless you.
You are welcome.
As well.
The long one.
Again, from January next year, our technical papers will be available on our website at a token of 1,000 naira per paper. So be ready. From next year, our technical papers will be hosted on our website, and you can always download it when you have paid 1,000. When you get to the website, you will see the process. It will be unveiled in January. So our technical papers will no longer be made available free of charge. You will be expected to pay for them. It's just a token, 1,000 naira per paper. We'll be having about 12 papers on it by the time it is open in January. So you just click on the ones you want, you download it after payment of your downloading fee. Thank you.
Ṣé chairman ò fẹ́ lọ sílé ẹ̀wọ̀n ni báyìí o?
Ẹ wá lé mi. Dẹ̀ yọ mí. Àbí? Ìjọba fẹ́ ṣe ń bẹ̀.
Àbí kí ló dé tí wọ́n dẹ̀ lọ lé wọn báyìí? Wọ́n ṣàfikún nǹkan tá a fẹ́ sọ létà. Àdẹ̀ ní sọ̀rọ̀ lónìí.
Má wọrí.
Kò sí ESCO meeting.
Wọ́n ti wúndùn yín lẹ́nu. So ohun yóò jágere mọ́.
Gagan. Congrats, we have done today so. What do you next year? Alaji. Congrats, Kushem.
Thanks so much for the assistance.
Please, I noticed that Ogato Sings was online. Have you talked to him?
Saw him coming in, but I will talk to him, Tasha.
Wọ́n sanwó iṣẹ́ tá a bá ṣe lónìí o.
Prof.
Yeah.
Kí ló tẹ̀ ń pè mí?
Ta ló pè wọ́n? Ó ti dijọ́ tó bá tó rówó gẹrun ẹ̀ kí tó bẹ́ẹ̀ sọ̀rọ̀.
Òtútù ti wà.
Okay, no problem. Báwo ni bẹ̀rẹ̀ ṣé kò sí òmù aràn àbí omíríkọ̀nù àbí kí náà porúkọ àrùn tó ń bá yín jà nílùú òyìnbó?
Ó wà.
Ọmọ àwọn aṣọ yín o.
Àmì o.
Conference wo ló ń bọ̀ Canada?
July.
Àwọn conference ìlú yín ẹ̀ ó ṣòro lọ jàre.
Kí ló ṣẹlẹ̀?
Last time tí mo wá bẹ̀ wọ́n fẹ́ lè fi trailer gbé padà wá sí Nàìjíríà pẹ̀lú tútù.
Wọ́n fẹ́ lè ṣe kí ni?
Mo fẹ́ lè sọ pé kàn fi trailer gbé mi padà wá torí òtútù.
Ẹ̀yin náà ti dira wa, ẹ má wọrí. Màá bá yín ra jákẹ́ẹ̀tì lẹ̀.
Jẹ́jẹ́ sí ni mo sí jákẹ́ẹ̀tì tí mo rà tó ràn mí gbà yẹn.
Ẹ má lọ ra jákẹ́ẹ̀tì Yaba o.
Ẹ dá lọ́rùn ẹ̀.
Ẹ má lọ ra jákẹ́ẹ̀tì Yaba. Ẹ má lọ ra jákẹ́ẹ̀tì Yaba o. Ẹ fẹ́ rógo.
Ẹgbẹ́ ìtumọ̀ gbé lè sùn.
Ẹ gbọ́dọ̀ ra jákẹ́ẹ̀tì Yaba o.
Ẹ má wọrí. Ṣé bẹ́ẹ̀ ká náwó sí yín lọ́rùn ni a máa náwó sí yín lọ́rùn kò sí wàhálà máa. Mi tiẹ̀ ní ra jákẹ́ẹ̀tì rẹ̀ lágbà tí máa fẹ́ kú sí yín lọ́rùn ẹ máa lọ tètè lọ wá aṣọ bóra.
Màá bá yín ra jákẹ́ẹ̀tì lẹ̀.
Ìrọ̀ owó flight ni kò san.
Owó flight.
Mo sọ fún ẹ tẹ́lẹ̀ náà.
Kí ni sọ fún Bìsírí Yùtá ló tún bá sọ̀rọ̀?
Òun náà ni Ṣẹ́gun náà ni.
Bìsírí Yùtá yẹn ká lọ síbẹ̀ yẹn náà ẹ yá ṣeré lọ.
Alhaji.
Naam.
Alhaji.
Mo ń gbọ́.
You have to get your visa first. If you don't have visa, why are you there?
You don't want to 3 months.
Ẹ bá ti san owó tíkẹ́ẹ̀tì. Owó tíkẹ́ẹ̀tì ni ò ní ṣe gbà mọ́.
Kò sí wàhálà.
So get visa first.
Àwọn èèyàn lọ lé wọn rò bóyá fẹ́ pín owó ìdámẹ́wàá àti ọrẹ. Àwọn tó pẹ́ dé wọ́n ya dúró wọ́n fi ń justify pé wọ́n wà ń bí. Ẹlòmíì gan ti gbàgbé ẹlòmíì ti wà market tó kàn tán system ẹ̀ sílẹ̀ ó bílí pé kò ní mọ̀ wọ́n ti parí meeting.
Tokunbo, why did you do that?
Prof, you are the host.